Bonjour, bonjour les amis. Welcome to a new stroll with France with Vero. This is not your usual guided walk I've done in the past. More of what I did at the beginning of the year when I was staying in Lille, northern France. I call those talks, talk and walks, which means I haven't really prepared this. I am in the neighborhood, my old neighborhood, for a few hours meeting friends for lunch. And because the sun is shining after a very rainy day, I thought it'd be nice to take you on this stroll with me. And for me, it's a little bit like going back to the past, because I lived in this area during the second and third French lockdowns in 2020 and 2021, right before I moved to the Loire Valley. We are, you may have recognized what's behind me, in the lovely Parc Monceau in the 8th arrondissement. And what I thought I would do before I meet my friends today is to take you on the type of strolls that I would take in the morning during the lockdowns when we were allowed to step outside, and show you a few things along the way. So what do you say? Do you want to join me? Okay, so welcome to Paris, welcome to the Parc Monceau, the 8th arrondissement, and as a heads up, this little guided walk, stroll, talk, whatever you want to call it, will take you all the way to the 17th, because this is where I used to live. All right, let's flip the camera. And this is one take only. I'm not going to edit this video. Whatever I film today is what you're going to see. It's March. And I'm hoping, the sun's shining, you can tell, I'm hoping we will see some beautiful flowers here. Le Parc Monceau. Le Parc Monceau is a Parisian institution, you know that. One of many, many parks inside the city, urban parks, that were created in the second half of the 19th century, so Parisians could enjoy their city. The place is actually a lot older, and it was created before the French Revolution by a member of the nobility. His name was the Duc de Chartres. He was a cousin of Louis XVI, the unfortunate king who was beheaded during the French Revolution. And then after the revolution, this was sold off as national property, of course. It evolved, changed hands, and became what we call today Le Parc Monceau. I spent a lot of time here when I lived in the area. It was a very nice place to be when you were stuck inside, and you could finally step outside and take in the beautiful nature here. For Parisians, well, you obviously see joggers, very athletic, and dogs. But for Parisians, this is a place where people come with family. On Wednesdays, for example, when the kids are out of school, you will often see all the benches here. You will often see little kids with their, if not their parents, who are both working, with grandparents. And so this is really a family park, and it has been for a long time, which makes it pretty authentic. It's gotten pretty popular on social media, which means more and more people come here now, but it's still not as crowded as some other areas of parks downtown, simply because it's a little bit out of the way. You have to know how to get here and where it is, and some people don't do that. I think I'll go this way. So a nice leisurely stroll for you today with your friend Vero, Veronique. I am a French native who lived in the United States for 25 years and relocated back to our homeland in 2019. I am a tour guide, a virtual tour guide, you can see this today, and a French language instructor. I teach online French classes, and I also host in-person week-long French immersion workshops in the Loire Valley, south of Paris, where I live. So I wear many hats, but essentially what I do is share La Belle France and the French language with my community, which is known as France with Vero. On the YouTube channel where I will share this video, you will be able to watch many other virtual tours and videos I have shared over the years, over 370 of them by now. Now, this park is also used, or was also used over time, as a place where they could keep remnants from other times, other time periods, other buildings in Paris. And that makes it very interesting because it's not just a park. There is art here, you can see statues. The gardens are lovely. Some of the most ancient trees in Paris are here. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole history of the park because this is a talk and walk. And I have done that in the past. So if you want to know more about the Parc Monceau, you could head to the France with Vero YouTube channel. And if you go to the live streamed walks section, you will find quite a few replays of live strolls I took in the 17th century, in the 17th arrondissement, when I lived here. Now, the original owner, the Duc de Chartres, the cousin of Louis XVI, had, you might say, eclectic taste. And what's left of the park, they called it a folly at the time, a place to enjoy the countryside. What's left of this, like this pyramid on the right-hand side, is a little bit exotic, which again makes the Parc Monceau very interesting. If you walk around, there's always something to look at. It's surrounded by prime real estate, including a great museum that's currently closed, I believe, Musée de Camondo. And you can hear nothing, which makes it very special, because Paris, as you know, is a very loud city. There's traffic right outside those gates, but you don't hear anything from here. Here's the pyramid I was mentioning. You see, it's paradise for pooches. They are supposed to be on leash. Not all of them are. So imagine erecting this in the 18th century, in the middle of an estate or property. People come here, they meet, they chat. It's a heaven paradise for kids because now they're not allowed to run everywhere. You can see in France, and I know it puzzles visitors sometimes, that we cannot step on the grass. I think Paris has improved a great deal in that area. Even if you complain that you cannot step on the grass here, for example, that's often the case in the winter and before April rolls in, so the grass can actually rest and look better when spring returns. So that's one of the reasons they do this. But the kids here, it's heaven because they can run around. It's pretty safe. And there are a couple of places where they can savor after school what we call un goûter, a little snack. Look at this tree. I'm gonna have to lean over or lean under it. Whee! That's pretty low. Old tree. Some of the oldest trees in Paris are here. There's a section, I used to show this in my videos, where you can actually see some pretty old trees. So just a little stroll here to, if you haven't been here for a while, maybe that'll remind you of a nice visit. I used to come here a long time ago when my uncle lived in Paris, in fact. So I've known the Parc Monceau for a while. It was fun to re-experience it as a resident when I lived here in 2020 and 21. And it's always fun, of course, to return and visit when I am in this area. Look at this. It's beautiful. Because it was, the park as we know it today was redesigned in the 19th century. You know, at that time the leader was Napoleon III. He had a very capable team. He entirely remodeled Paris. I see magnolias in the distance. They're beautiful there, the pink ones. And Napoleon III created parks all over the city. Sometimes they're very small in the neighborhoods. They're called squares. And Parc Monceau was actually the first one. And the guy he had in charge of all these gardens, one of them, was named Alphonse. And he's the one, Adolphe Alphon, and he's the one who designed, or redesigned, I should say, this garden. In the pretty romantic style. This was the romantic style that was prevalent in the 19th century, which means you have recreations of grottos and waterfalls. You have your fountains. You notice everything is dark green. It was the color they chose at the time. It was the color, le vert wagon, the green color that the first metro cars had. I'm facing the sun, which is not ideal, but there is a water fountain, a waterfall, here typically. It's a very pretty place. You see the merry-go-round in the distance. And then there's this little place on the right-hand side where they sell crepes and waffles and ice cream. So the kids come here for le goûter, late afternoon snack. I did treat myself to a few. Look at all these people sitting on the benches. This is Parisian life at its best. And there aren't that many tourists here right now. It's March. I only hear French, people speaking French here. Ahead of us is a landmark in this park, La Rotonde, the Rotunda. That was part of the original design. It was redone, I think, when they redid the park in the 19th century. But at one point in time, it was part of a tax barrier that was built all around the city. And that was called the Farmers' General Wall. They built that right before the French Revolution. And this was one of the points where you would have to declare goods and pay taxes if you brought goods into Paris. So it served many purposes. There's a restroom in it now. Les toilettes publiques, you know, that's always a challenge to find in Paris. There's a very large group. It's Thursday morning. They look like high school kids. Parisian students are very lucky. They get to visit museums and exhibits. What a playground for them, huh? Even if they're at school, learning with their teachers. Here's this magnificent gate. So I'm going to take you on the same walk I would have taken when I lived here. For this, we need to cross the street. Really nice metro entrance here in the Art Nouveau style. Monceau, this is the name of the stop. Line number 2, it says that right there. I think there is a, right here should be safe for me to cross. Should be, is the you can see the traffic. Look at the beautiful avenues all around here. These Haussmannian type buildings that were erected in the 19th century during the big Paris remodel. It gave it this very elegant appearance. We're not very far from the Arc de Triomphe and all the boulevards, the Champs-Élysées. We're not that far from there. Here we go, looking left and right. Don't forget to do that, or you might be sorry. Especially with the many, many bikes we have now that don't always stop. Perfect. And here we go. So, short stretch here, surrounded by very nice real estate. And we have entered, magically, the 17th arrondissement. We left the 8th. You can see 17th written on the top of that street plaque. So this is how I would get home after my morning walk, or run, if I felt like it. Late afternoon, I would have to stop by that crepe place I mentioned. You may remember when I shared these on social media. Delicious crepes. And it was never crowded, of course, since visitors were not allowed back into France for a long time. So it was only locals. It is a pretty day in March. A little chilly, maybe. Temps in the 50s, I would say, for our American friends. But you can see that this is a very elegant neighborhood. Incredible facades. And then after that, we reach a big square where I filmed 2 guided walks and told many stories about what happened in this neighborhood in the late 19th century, early 20th. It was known as La Plaine Monceau, and there were so many artists in these parts. So again, you can go back to the France with Vero YouTube channel, go to the live streamed replay section, and you will find the Plaine Monceau strolls. You'll hear about celebrities at the time who lived around here. Look at this incredible building. Some of you may have visited this. This is one of the museums we have in Paris. Never crowded though. And here's look at that, a rain spout. I mean, hello. A building that needs such elegant rain spouts must have been built by pretty affluent people, don't you think? So back to Paris streets. Hear the noise, the traffic. Ooh, I believe there's an old friend of mine here. I'm gonna pay her a little visit right here with you, and then I'll show you the building that's behind me. Impressive building. A banker erected this building in the late 19th century. Lots of parties happened here. And because in the 19th century, the Middle Ages were back in favor, the Gothic style, a lot of people would choose to build homes in what they thought the medieval style was like. So you would have gargoyles, just like on old Gothic cathedrals. This is today called Citéco. It's a museum dedicated to economy. And it sounds like a serious topic. It is, and it once belonged to the French Central Bank, La Banque de France. The museum is super interesting. Allow at least a couple of hours to see it all. And don't hesitate to come. It's very interesting, and the building itself, of course, the perfect backdrop for everything they show you in here. I love this little section. I would stop by here often. This is Edmond Rostand, this gentleman here. Edmond Rostand, you may know him as the man who wrote Cyrano de Bergerac, one of the classics. He was a playwright and an author, and one of his favorite people to write for was this lady, and her name was Sarah Bernhardt. And you know, if you know me, you know I'm a big fan. Sarah Bernhardt, one of the greatest actresses, stage actresses France ever knew. And she played in several of his plays. They were friends. And it's wonderful that he almost looks like he's bowing in front of her. He looks very humble. And there is Sarah, who was a real diva, the first international star, looking regal, I guess. There are other personalities on the square. There is Alexandre Dumas, Sr., his son, Alexandre Dumas, Jr., both very famous French writers. All of this I showed in those guided walks. There's an excellent museum on that street over there on the left. Never crowded either. There's a lot to see in the 17th arrondissement if you know where to look. And if you want to step away from crowds, which, let's face it, can be a bit much in Paris. Last look at Citéco, the Museum of Economy, right there. French colonial history is also remembered here. There is a tribute to a former slave, a woman named Solitude, who rebelled against authorities and was eventually killed. Her statue is over there in that corner. But again, this is a talk and walk. Can I cross here? This wasn't here before, of course. Okay, I think I can. So Paris, you know, constantly being restored, remodeled. Look at the size of this thing. Just scaffolding all around this building. Crazy. Charles Gounod, the opera composer, lived in that building. In fact, I remember that. Let's take this one away from the construction. It will be quieter here. If you want to explore Paris, even in the most touristy areas, closer to the Seine River, left bank, early morning is the best time. Many people sleep in or go to work. And so the streets tend to be very quiet until about 11. Of course, it's only March now. We are in the 17th arrondissement. And if you just joined us, this is Vero, your best French friend in France. French language instructor, tour guide, virtual tour guide, sharing France and the French language under France with Vero on many channels, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and of course a newsletter published on Substack. You can subscribe for free. I call it Lettres de France. If you want to look at France through the eyes of a French native, you should definitely subscribe. Lettres de France on Substack. Look at this building. You know this is not as old as it looks. It was erected also in the late 19th century. Like I said, the Gothic style was back in fashion then. I am taking you very close to my old place. There are a few schools around here. Higher education, private schools, business schools. And I am taking you to my old neighborhood where I will wrap up. And to do this, we are going to get a treat. We are going to walk through what I still consider my favorite market street in Paris. It's changed a lot, they all do, but if you enjoy French life, if you come to France to see French life, and by this I mean being able to walk around lively neighborhoods with shops where you can shop for food, not just supermarkets, all sorts of shops. This is getting very hard to find all over the country. What you hear, the music, is actually a school behind me. I don't know what they're doing in there. So some incredible real estate still. And we're going to my former street when everything was shut down. Only essential businesses were open during COVID, and that street was allowed to remain open. So if you wanted to actually see people, you would come here because you knew all the food shops would be open. This big window here with the cute little people on the windows, it's called les petits chaperons rouges, little red riding hoods. It's a crèche. A crèche is a daycare. You can find them all over Paris. Ahead of us is a Wallace Fountain, another Parisian landmark with a great history. And we arrive here, Rue de Lévis. Rue de Lévis, you see the name here on this green awning. Lévis, L-E-V-I-S. In fact, one of the oldest streets in Paris. It's been here for a really long time. But like I said, an authentic market street where you can find food, one store after the other. Some people might call it not very efficient because you have to stop. You can buy your produce, you can buy your meat, you can buy your books. Look at that, Librairie Fontaine, independent bookstores. The French cling to their independent bookstores. Facing the sun, not ideal, I apologize, but hey, we're not going to complain about the sun, are we? Flower shop, Le Fleuriste. Here is one of the poissonneries or fishmongers on the street. Poissonnerie. There's a boucherie ahead of us. I'm going to step here. Now, sign of the times, this is the butcher, of course, the boucherie. Sign of the times, you do have some chains here. Famille Marie is a chain that specializes, it's family owned, but it's a chain, and it specializes in honey-based products. Alain Ducasse, the famous chef, also makes excellent chocolate. You see him here. I used to buy chocolate, and I still do for clients at Le Cacaotier. They have lovely stuff. It's an independent chocolate shop. And of course, you have your wine shops. There are quite a few around here. This one is also well known. It's called Le Repère de Bacchus. Another primeur. Primeur is the place where you buy your fresh produce. You have hair salons, clothes. Well, you have Sephora, you see, so this didn't used to be here, but of course now all the big chains are here. Another fromagerie, là, the fromagerie, the cheesemonger. More clothing. Your cafe, gotta have a cafe, and better yet, some place where you can have la succursale. Some place where you can have your coffee in the morning, preferably on terrace. And this was open at times during the lockdowns. This is the Petit Jardin is where I would get my, this was my favorite one, my favorite primeur to get my fresh produce. I just passed another boulanger. Eyewear. So many of these shops in France. Nicolas, the chain where you can go if you need advice on buying French wines. Look at these facades. This is your typical architecture in Paris after the 19th century. I don't know what they're doing, but there's major construction at the end of that street. I used to live in the street parallel to this one, so right up the street, Rue de Saussure, 4th floor walk up. Kept me in shape. Hard though when I caught COVID to go up those stairs for several weeks afterwards. Another primeur. You can see we are not running out of vegetables and fruit. I love this little section, Rue de la Terrasse, because you have a few cafes, a couple of boutiques. It's really nice. Look, they're just unloading the goods. You see, it's the morning, so this is your best time to catch slices, real slices of French life. Look at the size of these oranges. This was my butcher, in fact, and he had, of course, roasted chicken. You can see them on the left. Lovely people, very friendly, always great stuff, and good advice on how to prepare what you bought. How do I cook this? For how long? What's the best way to cook this? And they would tell you. Pardon, madame. And you have very old facades here. It's not just glorious Parisian architecture, and some of these have been here a really long time. This was not a fancy neighborhood at all in the 19th century. We just passed Naturalia, which is a chain that sells organic things, bio, as we say in French. Boy, we're almost blinded by the light. Who would have thought after yesterday? You never know in Paris. Always safer to have an umbrella with you. And at the end of Rue de Lévis, you reach a big avenue again. If you went left, you would reach Montmartre pretty quickly. We're not very far from Montmartre at all, which made it a great location. And The wind, what you hear are little flags over the street, and the wind is just making them flap in the air. This is one of the best Monoprix in Paris. You know Monoprix, that store. And the reason I like this one is because it's so big. The one here on the left is only food and wine on 2 floors. The one on the right here has everything else, clothing, housewares, cosmetics, anything you need. So during the lockdowns at times, only this section, the food, was open. And then eventually this one reopened as well. But this is one of the best in Paris. Not all Monoprix are created equal. And you know, Parisians love their Monoprix, and for that matter, the French as well, because we have them in many other cities. I'm just going to wrap up soon. This is Rue des Dames. You see the plaque here and those 3 ladies, really nice street art. La Rue des Dames, the street of the ladies. Those ladies, this is a reference to the powerful ladies, very often members of the nobility, who ran a big abbey located in Montmartre. There's nothing left of that abbey, or hardly anything left, because it was, of course, destroyed during the French Revolution. In fact, the last abbess, one of the ladies of Montmartre, who is old, blind, and deaf, was executed during the most radical part of the French Revolution in 1795. We call it La Terreur, the terror. And she is buried at a tiny little cemetery, hard to find, in the 12th arrondissement, called Le Cimetière de Picpus, where I saw her earlier this week. At least I saw the plaque remembering her. And another celebrity in this cemetery is the Marquis de Lafayette, who helped Americans during their revolution. So, Les Dames, this is one of the longest streets in the neighborhood. It goes all the way to the other end of this neighborhood, La Rue des Dames. I followed it once on a stroll, I think, that I filmed. I'm just going to wrap up at the entrance of my old street. You can see these are authentic neighborhoods, which means they're not shiny like postcards, they're real. You have delivery trucks, you have trash waiting to be picked up, you have noise, but real people live here. They're not all Airbnbs. And if you have a chance to stay in this neighborhood by the Rue de Lévis, I think you could do a lot worse, because the Rue de Lévis has everything you need. The metro is next door, a couple of metro lines that will take you downtown. But when you want to be away from the melee and the crowds and the noise of downtown Paris, you can come here. Here's a lovely little passage, we call them. It connects to the other side. It's called the Passage Geffroy Didelot. It's actually a mouthful, but it's cute. They have a few restaurants, but mostly workshops, art galleries on the sides. I used to walk there too. And there, Bacillus, there was my boulangerie. We have so many in Paris. Paris is lucky. Lots of boulangeries. Some of them are quite trendy thanks to social media. People line up outside. Well, this is a great one. I don't think I've ever bought anything from Bacillus that wasn't good. Bread, pastries, you name it. So, if you are ever in this area, you can come here. Lots of restaurants. And if you keep going along the Rue des Dames and cross the railroad tracks, you would reach the very trendy neighborhood called Les Batignolles. As for me, it's almost time to say goodbye. I hope you've enjoyed this stroll with me today. Again, it wasn't really planned. I had my camera with me, so I just took it out. This was my street right behind me, and it's called Rue de Saussure. I lived right here during the 2nd and 3rd lockdowns. Down memory lane as far as I'm concerned. But I want to say thank you for following me today around the Parc Monceau and the lovely 17th arrondissement, which is not that trendy yet, except for the Batignolles. So let's keep it this way, if you don't mind. It's a great neighborhood, and we need those to survive in Paris. The real authentic neighborhoods. I'm sure I will be seeing you very soon. France with Vero, social media, YouTube or Substack. À bientôt les amis.